iHeart Radio Group.
Capturing the moments that make life great.
Ladies all around the world, listen up. We're looking for you. The time has come to be unstoppable together. The danger of executive women is worrying we're not enough, obsessed with perfection and failing to perform. You're in the right place. It's now time to be unstoppable together with Connie Five. She was the director of the United States Chamber of Commerce and CEO of Girl Scouts USA. Sit down, squat down, or lie down. It's time for Up or Out, all business with Connie Five, your unstoppable diva and chair of the Fife Group, helping women in leadership achieve excellence and be unstoppable together.
Hi, this is Connie Five, your unstoppable diva, and you're listening to Up or Out with Connie. Now, I've been telling you for a couple of weeks that we have some really exciting a new look, a new venture, and we did this because you've asked for it. You've been asking us for a place where the movers and shakers can go and hang out and share best practices together. Well, we've made that happen. We've launched our Up or Out Network website, and this is an online mastermind group where the members are running the show. You're running and leading the groups, peer mentoring. We have webinars, we have live events, and much more that's going to keep you bold, keep you connected, and be unstoppable together. And second to that, in connection with that, our Facebook brand, our Facebook look has also changed. So we have a Facebook group just for our Up or Out tribe. So go on to Facebook, look for Up or Out Network, join the group. And again, it is a way for the movers and shakers, the rule breakers to stay connected and make it happen, because that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. Because if you're looking to move up in the C-suite, be heard in the boardroom, or maybe you want to go out and become an entrepreneur, we have it all right here for you, because we are a high performance group and we are helping you make it happen. So I do need to take a really quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back with today's guest. Hi, this is Connie Five, your unstoppable diva, host of Up or Out with Connie. I am thrilled to be a headliner host on the C-Suite Network, where you can grow your brand, grow your tribe, and be unstoppable together. We are the hottest podcast for C-level executives and entrepreneurial leaders. Each week, we interview content leaders on leadership, personal brand, business, and influence. Continue to hear me right here on the C-Suite Network, also on iHeart Radio, Sirius XM, iTunes, and over 900 networks around the globe. Follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, because you don't want to miss any of the good stuff. Until next time, this is Connie Five, your unstoppable diva. Be bold, be connected, and be unstoppable together. And we're back, and we are here with a gentleman who, and I mean that, gentleman, who I've met recently in Texas, and just struck me. Brilliant man. He is a certified management consultant. He helps clients map a clear path to the next level of performance. He and certified management consultant is also the CMC, for those of you who want to know what those initials are. But he was awarded the CMC Institute Management Consultant at the Meeting Global ISO IEC standards. And I know what that's all about. I'm married to an engineer, so I totally understand. And he got that within the top 2% of consultants achieving that. I mean, awesome. He's an expertise in strategic management, culture transformation, leadership development, and employee engagement. He uses a guided self-discovery process to weave change into the fabric of an organization. And his experience ranges from startups to Fortune 100s. And he has proven results in retail, B2B, manufacturing, field operations, and digital initiatives. At Johnson Controls, he was the cross-functional team launched the AutoZone brand, adding $30 million to revenue, and he received the Chairman's Award for Customer Satisfaction. So who am I talking about? None other than Dale Hintz. Hey, Dale, welcome to the show.
Hey, Connie, how are you?
I am fabulous. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect. So we have to throw that little plug in. We connected at the C-Suite Network.
Yeah, it was very fun. It was good to meet people like you that are, I like all the language you use, high performance, bold, up and out. Yeah, that's good stuff.
And that's what we are. I mean, it's a combination of C-suite executives and entrepreneurial leaders, and that's the theme of the Up or Out, because I've been there. I sat in the CEO seat for a lot of years, and now I'm sitting in the CEO seat of my own business. So, you know, it went from a couple thousand employees to a few.
That's good though.
But I mean, some of what you need to do in an organization, I mean, it's modified by the number of people that you're working with, of course, but you still need to be out there. You still need to be marketing. You still need to be looking at the culture, the engagement, and the leadership within an organization. So tell us more about that. Let's talk about culture for a minute, because we know culture. Well, historically, they've said culture cannot be measured, but you're saying culture can be measured. So I want to hear more about that.
It absolutely can be measured. And so culture is pretty popular, lots of blog posts, lots of information flowing on it. And lots of people go with, I'll call it a myth, that you said culture can't be measured.
Right.
Or they'll say, gee, it takes 5 or 6 years to change culture. And it's really not true. It's the big thing is, do you want to work on culture? Just like anything in our lives. Right. Everything can be a difficult change, except when we decide we want to do it. And we take those steps to do it. So for us, the measurement is always fun with a senior team. So we'll do it with a senior team. They'll see kind of where they are. Okay. We'll also in the assessment say where they want to go. And then it's just the gap analysis between where you are and where you want to go, that some really interesting conversations take hold in that team that says, yeah, gee, we launched that new product last fall and it just didn't go well. And then they'll start digging into it and they'll see that, oh, well, people in the field knew there was problems, but they were afraid to raise their hand. So something in our culture means at meetings, everyone comes and nods their head yes.
Okay, yeah.
And then they go out into the parking lot and share what they really feel.
Right.
And so that's not going to help you.
Well, I've seen it in the reverse too, where people in the field will speak up, but the ones actually creating, marketing aren't listening. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
that breakdown. Yes.
And so, working with cultures, it's always interesting because you do it cross-functionally. So you get lots of people working together that may or not have seen each other a lot. Maybe they email and communicate electronically, but now you get them and they start to respect what the other person is doing. So the person that's, let's say, in marketing and communication says, wow, that running a terminal or a remote location is really tough. Yeah. And vice versa. The people in the field see that, wow, those folks in the corporate, they've got a lot to do too. And they start to see each other for what they can contribute instead of who we can complain about.
Now, when you do this, and I'm going back to, years and years ago, I worked for Axel Salt, and I was part of the management team where we did a cross-functional training, so to speak. So, for a period of time, we had people sitting in somebody else's chair, learning their job, learning their role. And it was really powerful. People were really walking away from, just like you were saying, like, wow, I didn't realize customer service had to do what they were doing, and then us, we're in the field and we're saying, well, why is it not getting done? So now there was a cross shift, a cross training, and they were understanding each other. It really had a profound effect on the organization. It sounds like, what you're talking about is understanding the other person's role and what they're doing.
And that comes from that the assessment starts that. It's just a framework.
Oh, okay.
And so within that framework, it's quantifiable, it's scientific, but now you start to color it in with the individual stories. And it'll be maybe how we handled a customer issue or how we responded to some kind of audits we're having, whatever it is. And what are we doing that's keeping us from achieving our goal? And does it come to our inability to work as a team? There's the elephant in the room. We all heard that.
Right.
Sometimes it's actually really there. And it hangs around, and it's getting a team to say, the elephant's in the room, let's deal with that. So that we can deal with what we're here to deal with. Because if we don't deal with it, man, it just keeps us from getting to where we want to go.
Right.
And because our calendars, in my opinion, are so busy, that people don't have a chance to see that elephant still in the room. They don't take that opportunity. I'm too busy, I just need to ignore it. So it means you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And we know that's not going to get you where you need to go.
Right. And that's sanity.
Yeah.
It's insane to do the same thing over and over. But I mean, a couple of things that you've said in there really stuck with me. One, we're too busy putting out the fires that we're not dealing with, like you said, the elephant in the room. And that's where organizations really do need to step back. And it takes a real leader to say, let's step back. Let's take a look at where we're at. Let's deal with the elephant in the room. And then we can move forward. Now, you talk a lot about organizations, their values, and how leaders are working today. And I mean, you quoted Peter Drucker saying, what gets measured gets done. So start by measuring your values all the way to the individual contributor, which is, I use that quote a lot when I was at Girl Scouts, because of course Peter Drucker wrote about Girl Scouts a lot in leadership and the values. So I was very quite familiar with that quote by Peter Drucker. So what is your take on this? I mean, about organizations' values being lived out day to day.
Most organizations of any size have a list of values. Oftentimes they can't tell you where they came from. And I'm talking at maybe a senior person in HR. They'll probably have some understanding where it came from, how they're trying to communicate it. But when you get down to the people who live that day to day, so what we were talking about, customer service to someone in the field,
right?
Maybe one of our values is integrity. And then they dig down to it. Well, what does that mean? Well, integrity to the field person means if customer service knows there's going to be a problem, they tell us up front. They don't keep stringing us along, and then it gets to the field person and it's not working.
And it's so like, surprise.
Yeah. And so we'll take something like integrity. And we'll break it down into maybe 4 or 5 other measurable behaviors that say something as simple as, if you know you're not going to make a due date, the second you know that's not going to happen, you raise your hand and say, hey, this due date's a problem, and talk in a solution mindset. So there's a lot of things around that, but it's just the fact that we're not going to ignore it anymore. We're going to deal with it. We're going to, if we've had a problem, we're going to fess it and we're going to fix it.
And that's that shift in the culture.
Yes.
It's almost like, don't be afraid to tell us, and shift that culture of, when you know it, tell us and we'll deal with it, at that time. And almost going back to, my motto of, we need to be unstoppable together. It's that word together. And that's what makes it happen.
In business, it's a team sport. You need really good players, but it's a team sport. And so how do we work together? And by measuring, so again, if you measure integrity and then those measurable behaviors to that, you're able to see, well, this department, let's just, not to pick on customer service, but let's say customer service scores poorly on integrity. And you get down to, they don't share that they're not going to make a shipping date. They kind of let the date go and hope nobody calls. And then you dig down and let that person dig down and say, we've got to put something in place so that we communicate when we're going to miss dates.
Right.
So a lot of times it's the basic functions within the business that they're not doing well that keep them from getting to new strategic objectives, because they're fighting the fires.
And that's what they're doing. I actually, when I was there, that company I talked about, I managed 32 customer service reps. And again, it was constantly fighting the fires and, and well, what's happening next. And, and that's why this cross training was really, really vital. So people understood, it's like, well, you just customer service, you're just answering the phone. No, it's much, much more than that.
Yeah.
It takes much, much more than that. So how is transforming a culture, I guess, what's the easiest way to make that happen? Like you said, so it doesn't take 4 or 5 years, so you could do it within a short amount of time. Like, what's the process to make that happen?
Well, our process is we measure it first. And again,
Mm-hmm.
we'll measure where you are and where you want to go, and we'll hold a 4-hour meeting to let the team come to an agreement on where that is.
Okay.
And then within that 4-hour period, we'll pivot them towards where we want to go.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you can talk a lot about culture in a past tense.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got a story, and that could eat all your time up. But what we do is, well, let's be dissatisfied with where we are. Let's see those things that we're not happy with. But let's more importantly see what would make us more productive and a higher performance, and let's focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Once we establish it, takes relatively 4 hours. It's very interesting to see the group start at, oh, no one can measure culture, kind of what you started at, to, yeah, this thing's actually, it's talking to us.
It really can. Yeah, we can definitely make a difference.
Once we get that consensus acceptance of here's where we are, here's where we want to go, then we'll break it into the individual leaders. So each leader will get a similar assessment. So let's say the customer service manager will get their assessment that's based on their team. And the person in the field will get their assessment based on their team, and the person in marketing. So we've taken this ambiguous culture that's collective and broken it into the individual leaders that they can work on. So the direction's established.
Okay.
But kind of the task list, what'll happen is specified to each leader. And then obviously if you work with a leader, you're engaging their team. So it's not like we're just working with, let's say, the top 20 leaders. We're actually working with their teams.
Right.
But again, working on the same, because we're all people, oftentimes in culture, the first thing we'll do is we'll say, well, if you could just fix customer service, everything would be great in the field.
That's right.
And the customer service, vice versa.
Always pointing the finger at somebody else. It's not our problem. It's their problem.
And so by design, we eliminate that.
Okay.
Say, yep, customer service probably has some things to work on, but you in the field, you're going to get an assessment that'll tell you what you believe you should work on to move towards this North Star. Let's call it the direction we're pursuing. And
what type of assessments do you use? Is it through your certification? Because I'm just curious to know what type of assessments.
It's called human synergistics. They've been around since the late 80s, and it was
familiar with
developed
them.
at the University of Michigan. So it's behavioral science from lots of experience. And so that's why it's always kind of interesting, because the initial pushback to most assessments is, oh, this didn't capture me. I'm special. I've got some uniqueness. But as they hear it and they dig into it, they'll often say, okay, this was kind of spot on.
Right. Yeah, because I use assessments too, and I'm familiar with the one you talked about, but that is a pushback when, you talk to people, oh, we're going to do an assessment. It's like, oh, I don't need to do another assessment. And, but once they do it and they see it and you debrief it with them, it's like, they're like, yeah, that's me. That's exactly who I am. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, we work really hard to make the assessment work smaller than the improvement work. So, we get that assessment done, we get the debrief, we get acceptance, and then we move real quickly. Well, what are you going to do about it? What's your plan? And we have techniques that engage that team so that leader isn't just out making up their own set of objectives. They've actually engaged their team to say, how could we get that due date out more effectively? What could we do to communicate with the field more effectively? And vice versa. The field folks are doing the same thing. What could we do to better communicate to corporate, or whatever their challenges
so they're engaging their people. It's not just, coming from the top down and saying, this is it, this is what we're doing. Creating that culture is really creating it from the bottom up. And then again, getting that employee engagement and everybody involved in the organization is now on board with what's going on. So if there is a deadline that's not met, everyone is already having that conversation and is aware of what's going on, and immediately letting the customer know as well.
Yeah, they've understood that it's not
Mm-hmm.
what we want to do. We've said we had integrity and we ship on
Right.
time or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to start to live it. And so to go off that Peter Drucker quote, what gets measured gets done. And the measurement just helps frame the issues so you can spend less time on the issues and more time on the solution to those issues.
Okay. Yeah, Peter Drucker was very instrumental. We use a lot of his work when we were going through the realignment for Girl Scouts. And it was the Peter Drucker model that, that we implemented into, and again, talk about changing a culture in a very short time, because now you have all of these chapters across the country, 311 of them, pulling them all together now to have a similar culture. And that doesn't work very well because everybody has their own way of doing things. So very, very hard. So, I mean, I call it emotional engagement because, I finally was able to get our leadership team together to say, okay, what do we need to do? It can't be cookie cutter. Not everybody's going to fit into this box. So, how do we break that up, but yet with everybody still in alignment? So yeah, we use Peter Drucker's model. That was our guiding star, our North Star, if you will, as well. And that's what we had used. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a really quick break. I have we need to recognize another sponsor. And when we come back, Dale, we're going to be talking about you. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Greg Davis. Connie asked me to pop in for a moment to tell you about a great opportunity. Have you ever listened to a podcast and thought, I should be doing that, but I don't know how, I don't know where to start? Well, Up or Out with Connie Fife has partnered with Park Lane Media Group to offer you PMR podcast production. What is PMR? Production, marketing, response. The three key elements you need to successfully build your podcast success. For more information, visit parklanemediagroup.com or email podcast@parklanemediagroup.com and be sure to let them know that Connie sent you. You have a story to tell. We'll help you share it. Come to parklanemediagroup.com today and start building your podcast success.
All right, and we are back. So Dale, before we go any further and put you in the hot seat, let our listeners know how they can find you and learn more about you and your company.
Easiest is probably just Google Excellent Cultures, and I'm one of the people on the team, so you can dig down into that. Dale, D-A-L-E, Hintz. Or on LinkedIn is another way a lot of folks will connect, and so just look me up on LinkedIn.
All right, so LinkedIn your go-to place? So that's our marketing question for today.
I think oftentimes it is. It's a way to connect. I found it's good to look at someone's history when you are going to meet them and talk to them. And so like you've talked about the Girl Scouts. So if I went on LinkedIn and identified that, it gives me a frame for what we talk currently about.
Right. Oh,
that's where that came from. And, sometimes it's, gee, you were stuttering poetry in college. What was that about? And they'll explain that, they could get a job.
I wasn't doing poetry in college. I won't talk about what I was doing in college. So.
But it's interesting to hear where people come from.
Yeah, it definitely is. Even for all of my guests, I stalk you and I go look. I do. I stalk you and I'm like, okay, let's go see what Dale did before. And, I try to look for something juicy to pull out. But, then I talk about it on the show. So this is why we have our next segment, which is the hot seat, because we talked about the business. Now we want to talk about you and find out a little bit more about what makes you tick. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty then. What is your favorite quote that keeps you going?
Keeps me going. Favorite quote. It changes, but I just heard one from Gary Kelly, who is at Southwest.
Okay.
And so I'm going to give it to you in a, maybe not exactly quotes, but he says essentially that the competitors can have the same airplanes, they can fly to the same airports, they can use the same jet fuel, but they don't have our people.
It's always the people.
So it's that whole competitive, why do you want a good culture? Because you want to compete.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are going to pay relatively the same amount for jet fuel, and the airplanes come from either Boeing or so there's very many similarities.
Right.
So if you want to differentiate yourself and be unique and special and be able to set higher goals than the competitors, we have to have people. And so that's a pretty famous one from pretty quickly for me.
Good. And that was similar to what Steve Jobs always said, the one quote that he had that I remember as well. It's, don't try to outcompete your competitors, be better.
Yeah.
And it comes down to your people. And it definitely does. Always comes down to your people. So what, did you know what you wanted to do right from the very start?
You mean way back when I went to college with Fred Flintstone then? No. No, I think opportunities present themselves. So when I got into the culture consulting, I just decided to be a consultant. And my background is marketing.
Okay.
And so I heard a couple gentlemen talk about culture, and they essentially said, sometimes culture gets in the way of an initiative. You can have the best product, you can have the best service, and culture, it's your Peter Drucker quote, culture eats strategy.
Yes.
And it was like, I felt like I was at a revival meeting because I had a product that, man, I thought I had all the marketing items figured out.
Right.
But lo and behold, I didn't realize that the sales force was mad because we had changed their per diem. So the organization had changed what they could get paid for being on the road.
Right.
And they were just mad. And their way of getting back was, okay, this new product, I'm just going to put it in my trunk. I won't.
Yeah, I'm not selling it.
I won't take it. I won't take it to the market. I'm not going to engage in that aspect.
Right. So that's really interesting. Been down that road a couple of times, and just like you though, going back to you changed, and like I said, it was a revival for you to talk about culture. I was marketing for years. I was known as the queen of marketing. And it was just this one simple little comment made to me that made a whole difference. So when I started doing this, because I was really good at sales and marketing, when I was at the U.S. Chamber, when I was at the Girl Scouts, I was raising dollars like crazy. And so, and I thought, well, I'll just keep going into marketing when I started my own business. And it was a couple of years ago, and I was in the green room waiting to speak, and there was another speaker in there. We started having a conversation, and she goes out and she speaks. She comes back in. Well, what I didn't know, she had asked the MC if she could introduce me. She took my intro and she tossed it on the floor, and she said, I gotcha. And I'm like, okay. Didn't know too much about her, but okay. Well, in our break time, she had looked me up, found out that I was a CEO of Girl Scouts. I didn't have that in my introduction. She goes out and does the introduction, and all she says was, okay, everybody on your feet, because coming out now is the leader of the number one, or is a speaker of the number one leadership program for women in the world, Connie Fife. And I'm getting a standing ovation before I even walked out on stage, and I'm thinking, who is she talking about? And then that was a Saturday. She called me Monday morning, find out, here she's an agent, and she called me on Monday morning and said, I want to represent you. And by the way, you're no longer the queen of marketing. You're leadership lady. So it was like, this completely changed my world, turned it upside down by her saying that. She's like, why are you pigeonholing yourself in marketing? She said, because that is not who you are. And I was like, oh, okay. I've only been doing that for the last 8 years.
We all do that. We'd like to think life is like just a straight line progression forward, but it has bumps and plateaus, and you sometimes need that jolt.
Right. And
to get to the next level, you need that.
Yeah.
To see yourself differently, to say, I guess I am that.
Yeah. So she rewrote my bio, and she said, you are the CEO of Girl Scouts. Start telling people that. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'll do that. So who's your biggest cheerleader, Dale? Who was the one that really keeps you going?
Biggest cheer? obviously my family. It's the
Okay.
folks, behind all the
Mhm.
work you do is, and it's fun. My kids are now college age and
Mm.
getting jobs, but I've always engaged with them on talking, what's in my world, what's in their world,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now they're starting to get a little bit what's in my world,
Oh,
you know.
okay.
So my
Okay.
daughter's internship at Bell Helicopter in the HR space. And so now
Okay.
she's like, Dad, is this some of what you do working with people? It's like, yeah, that's what I've been
Yeah.
talking to you for, 20
Yeah.
years. Uh,
Yeah. Isn't it so cool to have adult conversations with them?
Most of the time, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say.
yeah, myself as well. I'll have a conversation. I have five, and and it'll just be like about business or work. Or my daughter, she runs she's a teacher, but she runs a school for kids with special needs in the deep south, and she was having issues during the Trump inauguration and with her team. And she was calling me and saying, okay, Mom, I need your help. How could we work through this? And not to go into too much of the details. So she was doing all of these different strategies leading up to it. And then they were threatening they were going to walk out the day of his inauguration. And so, and I'm like, and my daughter's like 100 pounds, if that. And this, and she's like, I'm like, it's only white woman here. And like, they're like harassing her really. And she's their boss. So like the day came and I'm like a nervous wreck thinking, oh my God, I hope the strategy worked. She didn't even use it. You know what she did? She went in, she said, all right. She goes, I'm telling you all right now, if you walk out, I'm locking the door and nobody's coming back. That was her strategy. I was like, oh no. But apparently it worked, with everything else she had done
Yeah.
up to it. And of course she gave that, we're here to support each other and to help each other. And so she gave that talk. And then she said, and if you walk out, I'll just lock the door and nobody comes back. So it's funny having those conversations with them.
So fast forward, did that strengthen her team going forward?
It did.
Yeah.
It really did, because I mean, according to her, up until that point, she said, I was trying to be their friend, and I was trying to say, I understand where, she's white and they were all Black, and so, they were all against the Trump administration and him coming into play. But it really did. And the other thing she did too, which is really funny. Now, again, my daughter's from the Northeast, that's where we're from. And she's a beer drinking person. She likes her beer. And so once a week she'll go and she'll have her beer. And so she decided, she goes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a truce that Sunday. She goes, we're going to all go to brunch. So they all go to brunch, and then they said to her, so now in return, we want you to learn about us, and we're taking you to church with us. And so she said, well, as long as I don't have to wear a hat. She goes, we're good. So she said it was funny. So they go to brunch. She has her beer, and they all have, some fancy cocktail drink. And then she goes, then we all go, I went to church with them. And so they broke that wall down, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just bought a house, and next week or in a couple of weeks, they're having a house party. They're all coming over and helping her, fix it up and, and do what they're going to do. So yeah, that really did help. She said that really made a difference, but it was everything that she did leading up to that. Like, I even had to do assessments, and we did that with them, the assessments that I do, but that was the bottom line. She said, she goes, this is it. We'll leave. I'm locking the door.
It's interesting. So I told you we do that assessment where the leader is and where the leader wants to go.
Right.
It mirrors what the culture has said. So culture is kind of the outside frame, and the inner frame is the individual leader. And then one of the things we'll do after we coach them and get them working towards their improvements, we'll have this little focus group where the leader will say, hey, these are the 4 things I want to work on.
Yeah.
And then the leader will leave. And the people will talk about it. And oftentimes leaders are pretty nervous when I first explain that to them, because what they caught of that is, Dale, you're going to set this up and I'm going to leave and people are going to talk about me and I'm not in the room.
Right.
Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But almost always it's a really good situation, because they get past some things, that elephant in the room. The
Okay.
leader just said the leader wants to work on the elephant.
Right.
Let's help them work on the elephant. This is what
Mm-hmm.
not communicating, whatever they've decided they want to get better at. This
Right.
is what that really means. This is, let me give you the kind of how much this elephant weighs, and it really is gray. And it's coloring that in for people helps them see, oh, okay, now I have a real life situation. I can take the framework of the assessment. Now I've colored it into what's really specific.
Yeah.
And make those steps forward. And good leaders, and we coach them on this, as you're saying, this is what you want to do, understand you need a team to do it. So you're also recruiting. So they're saying, hey, here's some suggestions, leader. You're there to say, oh, that's a great suggestion. Who can help?
Right.
You know, there's more than just me that's going to be working on this. And because of the way it's happened, you're working on what they feel is their suggestion.
Right.
Much more willing to pitch in and say, well, let me have a part of that task as well.
And that was the other thing she did up to making that final statement to them. She did something similar to that. And it was something that we had talked through. So with the state, because they're a nonprofit school, they have certain criteria that they have to meet. So there's 4 criteria, and you reminded me of that. So she went back to them and she said, because then there was some back and forth about what the new curriculum was going to be, and they were working on that. So she went back to them and she said, I just went through an audit with the state. Here are the 4 points that we have to cover. I'm going to leave you, the team, the teachers, up to creating a curriculum, and I'm going to leave. I'm not going to give my feedback, but as long as these 4 points are covered, she said, we'll be good. And that was the one thing that she did as well, that she let them do it. And then they came back to her, because then there's a lead teacher, and they came back to her, and and Stephanie, she basically had a heart-to-heart with her. She's saying, I don't know if I'm being productive here. She said, because there's a lot of hostility going on right now. And this lead teacher came to her and she said, no, she goes, you're being more productive than you are giving yourself credit for. And by allowing us to create the curriculum, because Stephanie's no longer in the day-to-day, because she's administration now. And she's like, she goes, you just showed us that you entrusted us that we can get this done. So so it's definitely much better than it was, but it was pretty hostile there for a while. I mean, I was like, are you sure you want to go to work on January 20th?
Yeah, it's but those situations, what I've found is if the leaders set the direction, and as you said, then you change it from a leader top down, it becomes bottom up.
Yeah.
But it's making that change from the leader sets the direction. So when it comes bottom up, we're pointed the right way.
Yeah.
Those kind of situations are often good when now everybody's working for what's the solution. It's not the leaders. This is just a hint to your listeners, but an all caps email is not as effective as you think. So sending out an email with all caps because you really want them to get the message, it doesn't work as well as you described. How do I get that bottom up? Here's the direction. Here's the 4 points to your daughters. These are the criteria. Have at it.
Well, she said it in an email. I think the outcome might have been a lot different than her just going in that morning and saying, okay, this is where we're at, ladies. And I think there's one teacher. This is where we're at. You want a job, you want to stay, fine. If you walk out the door, you're not coming back in. So all of these threats and everything that you're saying, stop now. We have more important things to worry about. So, well, we could keep on going, Dale. I know we can, but we are definitely out of time. And I know we're beyond time. So I want to thank you again for being here. And thank you all for being here today with Dale Hintz, a superb guy. You can find him on social media. Just look for Dale Hintz, Hintz. And Dale, what was the website again?
www.excellentcultures.com.
Excellentcultures.com, and just look for Dale. So full of so much valuable information. It's going to help with the culture of the organization, large and small. Doesn't matter what size your team is. You need everybody to be working towards the same goals within that same culture and have that engagement with your people and let them know that they are valued. Dale's the guy to help you do that. So our time always goes by so quickly, and I want to thank you all for being here. And be sure to subscribe to our iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages because you don't want to miss any of the good stuff. Remember to head on over to Facebook, look for Up or Out Network. Join the group. We have a lot of really fun stuff going on. And what I didn't say at the beginning of the show, that we do have a secret word. When you're in that network and you see one of our podcasts being posted for that day, type in our secret word of the day, which is unstoppable together. And that's when the freebies are going to start happening. So it has been great being here with you today. Ask yourself, if you could do something different to make a different result, what would that be? This is Connie, your Unstoppable Diva, and you're listening to Up or Out with Connie. Until next time, be bold, be connected, and be unstoppable together.